and the lights are going out under the Suzuka wet streets. And there in the back, you can see it as Leo pushes hard to catch up. It's absolutely
Louise making
chaos.
moves. Oh.
In the back, you can see the Aston Martin and a Haas off in the distance, finding themselves in the gravel. JDB in the judge, not where you want to see it. But what you do want to see is the battle that found Mark losing all the places.
And Marlack's out in the gravel. Marlack's in the gravel, falling down the order.
Having to join safely, he finds himself losing so many positions. P15 after that tremendous tumble. I didn't see what happened to him.
He was just pushed wide, going through the S's.
Oh no. Banging of wheels going on for the Saubers, Souls, and all the drivers behind getting in little tussles of their own. As Renato brings it side by side with Hash Brown. There you can see as the two top drivers, the two titans, brawl it out. Luis, who's trying to stay with, and Squirt, who stays in P4. In the back, you can see Leo as he goes up a few more spots, and Mark, who's currently in P14. This is absolute disaster for the Red Bull team coming to the Constructors.
Looks like these McLaren boys are going to give Hash Brown a tough time today. And he's left stranded with his teammate all the way down in 13th. He's in no place to help as Renato goes around the outside. Can he make it stick?
Right,
no, he can't.
Lewis as well.
And they're side by side through the S's. And they both.
And they make it.
Oh my goodness, they made
and
contact.
Ashbrad. What happened to Ashbrad?
Renato, they just touched and he spun into the grass. Dropped down to 7th from 1st to 7th.
That is not what the Ferrari wants.
About with Leo DNFing.
That is terrible news for the Ferrari team. That has to be a Wi-Fi issue for the Leo. He's suffered from it before. He's finding himself maybe suffering from it again. That's not what he wants to see, as he's placing the Ferrari team under threat with the fact that Hash Brown got spun out from Renato. That could have possibly spoiled the race for the Ferrari team taking points here. It looks like Judge and Nocturno find themselves in the back. Nocturno, who's spin out in the hairpin possibly, as he has to rejoin as JDB goes by. It looks like everyone will be pitting around laps 13 through 16. The possible strategies that are being shown right here, as Goyce can be seen with Marklax right behind. Goyce losing a lot of time through the corners. Marklax lucky to not get wing damage. But Goyce feeling the pressure, being more aggressive as the racer, getting lost as he's driving that car, as Mark is keeping it clean and dives his nose in just for a little bit of a slip on the outside, but he doesn't have that speed on the straightaway.
Three laps in, Marlax is now down 11.8 seconds off the lead.
It's not what Mark wants for his race. Mark has to be frustrated being kept a hold from the driver of Goyce, who's just spinning everywhere. In fact, right ahead, you can see Goyce absolutely losing the car as Mark tries to go and try to make it so he could go on the outside, but he loses the car a little bit and gets on the grass, trying to avoid Goyce. Goyce getting on the grass a bit there. Leo, who's left the session. That's the absolute worst for Leo, who's found himself in that kind of situation too many times, as Goyce loses it, and he loses the spot out to Mark, who gets by. under the hairpin. The driver of Andrew getting loose right there, giving a chance for Souls to possibly get back in there and get the DRS, not DRS, the slipstream right off him. Hash Brown continuing in 7th place right here, but not what he wants at all for his race, as the driver of the Williams is starting to lose a little bit of that grip he initially had, as Renato puts in the fastest for a sector. Renato, who's in the lead right now with the fastest lap, it seems, but possibly could be under investigation for the incident involving the Ferrari. But right now, you can see the battle is with the Haas and Souls, who are both brawling it out there, and both losing a lot of speed under the corners as Goober gains, and the Haas gets a little twitch he doesn't want right there. The driver of Lewis having the pressure of Mark, but as Mark has the driver of Goyce right behind, it's applying pressure on him as well, because Goyce is placing the car where he wants to, as they bang wheels and get a little bit of contact in there. Not what you want to see, but what you do want to see is Goober getting past the driver of Andrew as he tries to make up those positions. The driver of Lewis losing a lot of time under that hairpin, finds Mark right on the tail, going on the outside. He's going to make it try to stick. He's going to bring the pressure to Lewis, who gets a little tensed up, as he has Goyce, who's on the left, but gets it nearly done. But he loses the car, gets on the curb, loses more speed than he wants, so he's battling Goyce through the corner, who doesn't get the top exit speed with the wider line as they go too wide. But Goyce is going to have the slipstream and the straight line power on the back end straight as they both go through the corner top speeds, as Lewis is pushed a little, just not initially with any contact, but just from the fact that there could have been contact. Goober and the driver Andrew battling it out, as the driver of the Williams and Hash Brown brawl it through the first sector in those corners, coming up to the first chicanes. And Hash Brown, who's going to have a wider exit, finds himself having the lead over the Williams through the first chicanes. The driver of Andre, who's losing the car from violent twitches, that's not what he wants, as he loses more time out too. The driver of Goober, as Mark is on the back of him and possibly could gain P10. Remember, points do go all the way up to P15, but with that in mind, it does still bring in the pressure for the drivers in the Red Bull team who want to gain that Constructors, and Hash Brown, who initially saw himself on the pole and losing out. The new rookie Williams will find anything in his power to
RST
get
had gotten
up.
past Goober. Now let's see if there's going to be team orders with the Red Bull team coming down this main straight.
That could be a very big factor here, especially with Mark not finding himself in the good spot for the Drivers' Championship, but could still find himself in it, depending with the weather of this race. It's never over, as the driver of the Haas takes the pressure, loses the car,
he spins
as he
Mark.
spins out Mark.
Rejoins unsafely and spins him out.
That
He'll
is
definitely be
not
under
right.
investigation later on.
That is definitely going to be looked at with how unfair that was to Mark right there, who couldn't do anything. The driver of Andre, who just doesn't seem to have the car under control and still doesn't, had affected the race of another person by joining unsafely. And in
he
fact,
loses
loses
it.
the car. Whoa.
See how that affects Marlack coming back up. With Marlax getting a 3... No.
Lewis.
Yeah, Marlax getting a 3-second time penalty along with Lewis.
Oh man, that's not what Mark wants. Mark is probably upset with how this race is going for him, and more further upset with the fact that Andrew is the one to be so stubborn, ruining his race by the seams of it. As Hash Brown finds himself catching up to the back of the Sauber and the
he is
train
having no trouble getting through this pack either. He's just passing them like they're not even hard to pass.
He's cutting right through. He's dancing his way through this traffic. It's insane.
Squirt has now fallen 2 seconds back from Renato, who was at one point only 0.6 back and keeping up. His tires must be getting worn or they're getting hot.
It's not what the drivers behind Renato want to see. That means he's possibly just getting away with the bag and the P1 and all. As Hash Brown brings it to Striker. Striker in the wall! What happened there? Oh man, that is not what you want to see. A Striker has his whole left side gone completely, unable to control the car by the seams of it in first sector. He's going right into second sector, but with a lot of wing damage. It's not what he wants. That's terrible, and that could have possibly, and will possibly, ruin his race. Big points for the Kicksauer team, who's found himself unlucky coming to Baku. Just getting wiped out, corner one, but at the same time, he had to take the responsibility, just as equally as any other. Every driver has found themselves in some sort of sticky situation, and now Striker, who's found himself with no luck throughout this whole season, crashing out here in Japan with some sort of situation, then Souls, who loses the car in the background completely, gets wing damage and all, and can't control the car, losing positions as Mark goes up to P10 on the back of Andrew now, who continues to lose that car. Striker goes in, Souls sticking it out with the wing damage. Marklax thinking of keeping the pressure onto Andre to maybe make that mistake that Andre's following with in these first sectors. Very possible.
This is ruining Mark's race. Andre just holding him up. He's losing so much time behind him. It's not looking good at this point of the race. It's going to need something big to happen later on for him to come back into it.
And by the seams of it, it looks like Goober is playing the team game here, defending against the
with Andre getting a 3 second.
Now Andre finding himself with the 3 second of his own.
And let's not forget, he might also be getting more time at the end of the race for that incident he caused with Mark earlier.
That is very true. That was very huge and costly to Mark, who could have found himself in P7 at this point and pulling away, but instead dealing with the traffic of Andre, who's just been a stubborn mule the whole way throughout. It's understandable for the Haas team to be trying to fight as hard as he can for the points, but Haas is at the bottom of the points. Andre is acting as if this is his own driver's championship to fight for his own, but is helping out the drivers of Ferrari.
Renato is in the box.
Andre bringing it too wide with the driver of Goober makes it possible as the Red Bulls now have Andre losing the rear on the exit as
Marlax
Goober...
boxed. He's going to go for the undercut.
Does box, but with a 10-second penalty for not slowing in time.
Oh, for speeding into this pit lane.
That is brutal. That is not what he wants right there. Everyone going for their pit strategies, everyone mixing the grid up, but more importantly, that 10-second penalty for Mark is just disastrous. Mark Black, who missed out a race, could have found himself in a better position for this championship, as you could see that Haas driver of Andre still struggling on the west behind. Goober, who's trying to pull away, but oh man, Andre, who's just losing the rear, is out of that range for the clean air on Goober. Luis getting it done on Ozzy, it seems like, in the Aston Martin. And by the seams of it, it looks like Hash Browns is on the Inter tires.
Yes, he had came into box the last lap and went on to the Inters, but we have a good amount. We have about 8 drivers that have boxed already and went to the Inters, including Renato.
This
up
is
in
very
P3.
interesting. Does that mean we might see the rain worsen?
And they
over
are
the
showing that they are way faster than the wet, so they're passing the wet drivers like they're standing still.
That is insane. As Hash Brown's cutting through the field, going back up the places on those fresh inters, catching up to Luis in any way possible as the drivers of Goober and Andre go in the pits right now. Mark, who's possibly going to get away from the whole Haas situation and could gain a place on his teammate under this undercut of his. And by the seams of it, it looks like there's an Aston Martin of JDB off in Sector 2. As he tramples over the grass and tries to bring it back on track. There you can see him join, try to not do as much damage as he can to the underbody of that car, but get back into the race as fast as he can.
We have Marlax gaining 2 places from the undercut.
Marlax doing a smart strategy right there to avoid the chaos that ensued with the Haas driver of Andre and the Red Bull teammate who did so beautiful, Goober, coming in to play a huge defensive role and team player for the whole Red Bull family. As Andre gains a 10-second penalty for a severe collision with Lewis. Lewis, by the seams of it, losing his front right wing.
Why Andre has no visible damage on his wing.
It makes
this is the second driver's race
penalty.
He has ruined.
This is the second driver's race he has in fact ruined. Andre, who will be being looked at the stewards after this, has left the session. And Souls, who has wing damage still in his front right, finds himself sitting in P10 as Goyce seems to have lost the car in a sense as Goober gets past. And now Judge, who goes into the pits to get those old sets off, as we see the Williams driver put on the hards. What an interesting move right there from the Williams Mercedes family.
See how these hards are going to compare on this wet. If he starts making good times, we're going to see a dump of every car dumping into the pits to get on them sauce for the slicks.
Pair. A caution in Sector 1 as it looks like it might be a Haas driver or some sort of driver of some sort, but now they're gone. Maybe the hards are the right call. We'll sit at the back of Lewis to see if he gains on the Williams driver. The hard tires might be losing out as Lewis in the slipstream of the Williams applies pressure and maybe could go for the overtake. Although, it does look like
he is keeping up with Goyce, though.
Is keeping up with Goyce. I was about to... You're right on it, Venom. The Williams driver is somehow keeping the pace under the wet conditions. As they go too wide, Lewis and the Williams racer go too wide, going into third sector, battling this out. The Williams driver making it done. The question is, are those the true tire sets to bring to the end of this race? Mark, who finds himself in P9, and Goober P8. As a battle for P3 ensues, Luis battling Squirt in the Mercedes seat, going too wide at the end of Sector 2 on the chicane, but they made contact. A little bit of wheel banging right there. Squirt not going to be happy about that, as Luis is trying to pull away. The Alpine, who finds himself still out on his old set of wets for 12 laps now, trying to make them last as long as he can as Nocturno retires from the session. And there, Squirt loses the car but regains it immaculately, as you can see the driver Nocturno retires on track again. The arrest seems like it's enabled. It looks like the dry compounds will come to light, and the Williams driver, who finds himself in P12, could be on the right set after all.
He's about to get a big gain off this. Now, if Marlax is able to dump into the pits, but Hash Brown is going to be before him, and I don't know what is going on with the Alpine driver of Brynest. He is going slow.
Oh, Brownness, who's finding himself with a rear puncher in the back left. He's off the track in fucking second sector. Holy shit. His whole rear left is gone. He's going to reverse on track.
He almost took out Marlax.
The Alpine driver, who's currently losing a wheel, is dangerously on track, trying to find himself back in the pits. As he goes near the racing line, he shouldn't be near at all, as the driver behind in the Mercedes gains for a little bit of slipstream as Brownie falls down the places. Losing the car once again, there's no way.
Marlax
Brownie
set the
might
fastest first on those enters still.
This is not what Brownie wants. Brownie disqualified from the session.
Disqualified.
As he reverses that car out, finding himself beach after losing his rear right, I think it was left tire. What are your thoughts on that, if you don't mind me asking?
On what incident?
On the Alpine, who found himself losing the tire on those old wets.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing. It looked like from the jump he was just looked like it popped and he did no effort to get off the racing line or avoid cars coming through. Either that or he just couldn't control it. But yeah, it cost him big in the end.
It's truly sad to see it, but at the same time, him rejoining, it's not what you want to see in here, especially in IRL. But what you can see was that Souls got on the grass a bit there as Marlax and Goober pulled
Renato
off.
boxing for the medium tires.
Renato for the mediums.
It looks like all the leaders are dumping in. Let's see how much ground this Williams driver has gained by boxing onto the slicks early, as he has just set the fastest second sector.
As you can watch as Hash Brown decides to stay out on his tire set, following Striker as well. But you'll have Luis and Squirt both coming out, who finds Squirt on the hard
This
tires.
is where Marlax should be dumping in.
Marklax serving his 10-second penalty.
The box. Oh, I forgot about his penalty.
What a totally undeserved penalty. I'm pretty positive. We'll have to look at it, but at the same time, there's nothing we can do.
And his wing was broke. He's replacing his wing. So that's even more time in the box.
That's not what Mark wants to see at all. Maybe there could be a safety car of some sorts that could help him, but Goyce, who finds himself also with a penalty and wing damage. The Williams driver finding himself P7 with the fastest first sector as he tries to get up onto Goober, who's still on the interset himself. Ashbrown,
and mind you,
also
he still
on
has
interset.
3 Inter drivers ahead of him.
That is true.
But all 3 are still going to have to box, or else there's Hashbrown. He's got to go on this lap. If he don't, the wind's probably gone. Those slicks are starting to show that they are so much faster. Is Hashbrown in? There he goes.
Hashbrown goes into the pits as Renato nearly loses the car and almost smacks into the pit wall. He recovers the car, but still, that type of twitch is not what you need. Especially being so far in the front,
Renato
it can get
now
you sometimes.
has a 3-second time penalty.
Renato, with a 3-second of his own, that's not what he wants, especially in this race. Ashbrown coming out, P5 on the fresh mediums. Luis, who finds himself P4. I mean, not Luis P4, Striker P4, Luis P2.
Looks like Brown is in the chat, and he is pleading his case. He couldn't turn because of the puncture, which is definitely reasonable. As we all know, that driving with a puncture is almost impossible.
That is very true.
Looks like Renato has this race pretty much in the bag as long as he does not make any mistake.
There's always that incident that involved him with Hashbrown that hasn't come to review yet. So that could also imply he could get a penalty. But with how
that is very true.
Renato wouldn't even have to worry about that type of penalty. Renato, who's just gaining away as Luis, has a battle with Squirt, who could gain or lose time from this situation. More than likely, it always ends out to losing time, but if he can stick on that hard tire set right behind Luis, it could always be helpful as Striker DNFs, and that's a safety car.
Strikers. This changes it. This brings everybody back into it.
This has brought everyone into another situation where the win could be possibly under threat again. The P1 could be under threat from his own teammate, Renato, finding himself possibly in contention against Squirt, Luis, and Hashbrown, who doesn't have a penalty of his own, nor does Luis, I mean. But what you do see is people like Aussie Man getting able to pit out here onto a fresh new tire set.
See, that is what's going to be interesting. Are these drivers going to keep the tires they are on, or are they going to take a risk to get that little extra better tire at the end of the race? And 2-3 laps could really make a difference at the end.
That is very true. As Andre finds himself back in, maybe initially finding himself with an issue as everyone gets ready to bunch up for the safety car, being careful as many people...
what is going on with Sauls?
Slowing down heavily as the Aussie Man gains a position. Why, what has just happened there? And there, you can see Renato going into the pits.
Is he going to go for the set of softs? No, he's putting on fresh mediums.
A fresh pair of mediums.
Those could definitely go 10 laps, 9 laps. Which is all he really needs. Drive-through penalty for speeding under safety car for Goys.
Not what Goys wants to have at all. He won't be able to even serve that under the safety car. Oh, and Hash Brown and the safety car bunches up. Hash Brown can't stop in time, loses out.
Oh my
in the
goodness,
brakes,
and his
wing.
broken wing. The left end plate on his wing is gone.
Hash Brown
That is
possibly
great news for Martlax.
losing a huge amount of points with that incident, let alone the safety car, which was stopped, Squirt slowing down. Hash Brown not able to slow down enough in time and loses it completely into the rear of the safety car. Not finding himself with a penalty, but even worse, wing damage.
He's going to have to box to get that changed, and he'll lose way less time doing it under the safety car than trying to wait to the end, which is in the end going to put Martlax in front of him. And as long as he can keep above 3 seconds, he is going to finish ahead of Hash Brown, which will keep him in the championship race statistically.
This is exactly what Martlax wants right here. It's just about if he's able to have that pace on the hard set, as Hash Brown more than likely would go on the softs. Andre, who also finds himself out of the race for some reason, possibly internet issues, but Goyce, who finds himself going back out to get on another fresh pair of softs right there. JD, who I possibly believe is a lapped car, is on the back of Martlax.
Is Hash Brown going to dump in? There he goes. He is in. Martlax is coming in to get that wing change.
I mean, Hash Brown.
Yeah, Hash Brown. I'm sorry.
Nah, you're all good. I forgot it too. I called him too. Oh man. Hash Brown, though, he does have to get that wing change, and it's not going to be fun, but him going on the soft tires will be beneficial.
And there it is, Mark. And there's back-to-back. Looks like Hash Brown might come out right behind. No, Lewis was able to get in front.
Oh, man.
That's big for Martlax. That's big having that one-car buffer.
It is very important to have that kind of buffer. But Lewis, in the Mercedes seat, has always been the type of driver to not get involved in heavy situations. He's always been wonderful at driving, but would he let Hash Brown go in this situation, or will he hold on for that P9 place? Especially with how close it is at the end. Lewis might allow Hash Brown to go through to battle Mark and even gain a few positions of his own.
And mind you, Martlax is on 4-lap-old hards. Hash Brown is coming out on a fresh set of softs.
That's going to absolutely apply more pressure on Mark, for sure.
It should come back to him at the end of the race to where Hash Brown's tires are probably going to be a little worn up with about 6 or 7 laps on him compared to Martlax's hards.
The Williams driver, who found himself initially on those old hard tires early throughout the race, finds himself P3 now.
What a great call though. Great risk. Came in at the right time, held on. As it was still maybe a little wet for them slicks, but he took the risk and he was able to hold on to it, and it paid off big time.
It's absolutely beautiful when such a tough call can bring out such beautiful results. When drivers are under that kind of pressure, they have to make quick calls, and as you see, the Williams applied that hard set earlier than the others, maybe making others think, what is he doing? This doesn't seem right, but pulls it off and shows everyone these hard tires can make it. And it really goes to show that risk can come out with beautiful results. In the meantime, I'll be right back.
And mind you, if this Williams is able to stay within 3 seconds of Squirt and Ronaldo, he is going to be able to take the win, which would be mega with the gamble.
I am back, and it's wonderful to see such beautiful commentating in my absence. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure. Very enjoyable to be here.
And to know that you're the new steward to the team, in fact, as well.
I appreciate
Wonderful. As the safety car, in fact,
safety
goes
cars in this lap. And look, the sun is coming out. The track is getting ready to get extremely dry. Those soft tires are going to be so strong at the start.
The track heating up, getting to its prime condition as all the cars bunch up in the back there, as you see. Not what the drivers want. Not what Hash Brown wants, as he won't get the kind of start he wants on this safety car as Mark pushes away. But up ahead, you can see Souls applies pressure onto Ozzy Man. They go too wide. Souls going for the move. He gets it done. He's going through the first corners ahead of Ozzy Man. As up ahead, you can see a wreck that involves... Whoa! Oh my goodness. Ronaldo, Squirt, involved in a huge wreck that finds Williams in the P1 spot as
the Williams, that gamble has made off even more now.
That gamble, that kind of pressure. Hash Brown in the back, spun around, not what he wants. He's on the racing line, stuck as
my goodness!
McLaren
and he has
goes
now
out.
spun. How the tables have turned from the beginning. Mark Lax in 5th place with Hash Brown in 12th. That is big point swing in Mark Lax's favor.
Mark Lax, who's finding himself in the prime condition he wants to be. Goober in the P3, defending possibly from the Aston Martin. As the same goes in the front for the first two drivers. The Williams, who's making his debut here, well known that he wants to drive for Season 3. Pulls off an amazing risky move, who's fighting Luis, who got signed by the McLaren team. But right behind, you can see Mark Lax gets up a position to stay in P5, fighting off Lewis. And in the back, you can see as positions are bound to go down for all that carnage that happened onto that second corner for the McLaren driver of Ronaldo and for the Mercedes. It looks like the Mercedes isn't going in, but it looks like the McLaren of Ronaldo will be. Squirt getting a 3-second time penalty as the Williams driver up ahead, having the pressure from Luis applied and sorta getting to him by the seams of it.
Hashbound now has 10 seconds. I did not see what happened, but he now has 10 seconds onto his time. It's going to drop him right now down. He'll only lose one position, but those are big points he's losing in the championship race.
Especially to Mark Lax, who's finding himself in the P5 standing spot right now, defending from Lewis. In fact, here you can see Marklax going side by side with Aussie Man, getting it done when it matters the most. And there you can see Aussie Man getting in the slipstream, as same goes for Lewis, who tries to go too wide to bring the pressure onto Aussie Man and gets it done on Aussie Man. Aussie Man trying to bring it back, but he just cannot through the braking zone as they go into third sector, coming out on the final corner to get on the ultimate straightaway. The Williams racer, who loses out P1 to Luis, finds himself in a situation of possibly not able to bring that kind of speed that Luis has on those fresh mediums. The battle is tense as Mark finds himself P4, Goober, who finds himself P3. Will there be team orders going this way?
And the Luis has made the pass for the lead. I did not notice that. He has made the pass to the lead with the Williams driver dropping down to second place.
That is interesting.
The Williams hard tires are 12 laps old versus Luis's 5-lap-old medium. So Luis definitely is on the better tire. It's better condition.
The question is, will those old tires have enough durability to have that kind of power to get under the DRS straight? Like that time gap you need. As it looks like a Mercedes of Squirt is going slow? No, it looked like Lewis going slow on the straightaway.
Mark is chasing down it's his teammate in front of him, but he does have traffic. He has the Aston Martin at GDB. See if GDB pulls over.
With blue flags out for JDB, it makes you question if JDB will get out of the way, or if he'll become a hazard for the driver Marklax, who found himself so unlucky at the beginning of this race.
Yeah, I mean, JDB's fighting for nothing here. Right now, he's giving all this dirty air to Marklax. It's giving him so much trouble as he finally pulls over at the final S. Coming out of the first sector.
Quite a danger almost for Aussie Man at the same time, though.
I know this is the big thing, is we have Goober in third place and Marklax in fourth. Will Goober go ahead and give that position up, then hold the pack up those 3 seconds so Marklax could keep his third place and gain even more points on Hash Brown?
That is true. Because if Goober gives up the P3 to Mark, who is in P4, he could gain more points and maybe bring a switch to the Drivers' Championship if Hash Brown finds himself in further trouble following the further races. After Suzuka, we'll find ourselves going to Brazil, which will be round 17. And we'll end out at Las Vegas, round 18, before preseason will be coming out. That time, I don't remember. But preseason will be out
Goober could have
before.
very possibly backed out a little bit to give Marklax that DRS advantage to help drag him down the straight a little more. But he was unable to slow down. Looks like Marklax is opening he's 2.1 up on Aussie right now, so he has 2 laps to get another 9/10.
Mark, who finds himself finding so much trouble at the beginning of this race, in P4 now, facing a possible podium to get him more points. And with the 3-4 that the Rebel finds himself in, after such a tremendous start, and I mean tremendous comeback, but horrendous start, will find themselves taking the Constructors' Championship possibly. There's of course 2 more races to come, but this will put them in the advantage. And the hard tires of Hash Brown is gaining on Souls, who's finding himself off the track a little on those old tires, finding it a little difficult now. As the driver of Souls defends from Hash Brown, keeping his car in the middle. Hash Brown keeping right behind to apply the pressure. Ash Brown waiting before the DRS straight, but he will place his car perfectly in the inside to get that dive done. Well placed, well managed. Slow on the exit. Souls, he's found himself still with that wing damage he hasn't replaced. On the back straight of Hash Brown for that P7. Souls, who hasn't had that many races to speak about, will have his own story to tell, who finds himself going to McLaren Season 3, but off the grass a little with that wing damage.
Looks like Goober is now slowing down slightly. Let's see if the team orders are starting to come into play right here.
This would be very interesting right here.
And mind you, he would have to drop and give him a 3-second gap as well, so he would have to fall back at least 3 seconds for that to stick.
That is true. And with how it started, with Renato getting himself in an incident unintentionally on the restart of the safety car with Squirt, finds himself P12. Luis Carlos, who got signed to the McLaren team for Season 2, finds himself P1, who found himself 2 races ago at his home race, P2. Last race, finding himself P2 again in Coda, but possibly
final lap.
P1 on the final lap of Suzuka.
Are the team orders going to come into play? Those are big points that it doesn't matter for the Red Bull team in itself. As long as the drivers finish 3-4, it doesn't matter who for them. But it matters for Marklax. I don't see why they wouldn't go ahead and swap positions to give Marklax that extra chance.
Marklax, who finds himself in the most successful situation to gain more points, has not done the team orders with Goober. It makes you question if...
And he's still not 3 seconds above Aussie either.
It makes you wonder if Goober will give the place or if he's going to make Marklax work for it. And that's very interesting, especially with the 3 seconds he has to give up. Sector 2, we have a Haas that looks like he found himself off. And look in the back, you can see a Mercedes. He's got the...
And the Williams in second now has a 3-second time penalty, which is going to drop him into third.
That's not what he wants.
And there goes the team orders.
Goober and Mark get it done, but will the 3-second be penalized off or not? As Goober is still on the back, but will he get the 3 seconds off? No, he doesn't.
My goodness. That has turned out horrible for Marklax at the end. Poorly played by the Red Bull team.
Who could have possibly gotten even more. Because Goober's in P2.
Did that just say Hash Brown got another 10 Okay, he is set on serve, so yeah, 10 seconds added on. Hash Brown keeps the 7th place. Squirt had 26 seconds, so he's probably going to drop down.
A race with so much controversy, so much wreckage and carnage. After the safety car, we'll see Renato in P10. Not the race he wants, not the story he had planned for the Suzuka day. But
Stewart's going to have a lot of work to do at the end of this race.
That is very true. Well, we will see Luis Carlos standing on the top, gaining his first ever victory. Without any real known history about Luis Carlos, he doesn't have a full drive for Season 3. It's very interesting. We want to know what seat he'll go for. With Souls actually in the drive for the McLaren seat for Season 3. That's going to push Red Bull right into the constructor standings. Hash Brown will find the fastest time as well, though. With the fastest lap. Leo, who finds himself DNF'd, losing out from the race, not what he wants there.
Such an action-packed race.
With the intense wet weather from the start to the wonderful dry call from the Williams, it truly brought in such an intense switch up in the standings. We thank you all for watching. Next race we'll be going to Brazil. All these points are going to have to be looked at with a lot of stewarding, for sure. But I have to say that was one successful race for
I have to agree with you. It was great.
Coming up to all of that, what would you say was a key highlight for you, Venom, in that whole race? Like, what caught your attention in that whole race?
I want to say that probably that first lap with Hash Brown and Renato. It completely ruined the championship race for Hash Brown there. That's such a big point for him. He could have locked it away just by winning. Just by winning, he'd have won, and now he's got to go on and fight next week.
That's very true. And following next week and the drivers we had there, who knows if Hash Brown might find himself in another accident. With how it went for Mark, it was downhill the whole way at the start, but at the end, it was a coin flip.
Man, so much to look at tonight and into tomorrow. All the incidences and definitely going to be some unhappy drivers, but it's racing.
It's how it is sometimes. We'll catch everyone on the next stream. Thank you for coming.
You guys have a good night.
Wonderful night.
Thank you.